Hey guys, it's Brianna here. Welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, welcome to my channel. Today I am excited to bring you week 4 of Scream for Romance, and this one specifically is about captive or kidnapping, anything within that umbrella. So I'm very excited to share the recommendations I have for this trope. I have 6 recommendations for you guys, so let's go ahead and get started. First, let me preface this by saying these do fall under the dark romance umbrella, so please, if you have any triggers or are in hunt of the content warnings, please go do your research. I always recommend a great place to start is going to be Goodreads, because a lot of reviewers will put a list of the different triggers and content warnings and all of that. Another great place is to check the author's website, because they are really good about giving an extensive list of any trigger. So let's go ahead and get started. I am so excited about these books. So first up, I've got to start with probably the one that everybody is familiar with. I do have to start with Stolen Heir by Sophie Lark. This is part of the Brutal Birthright series, and I'm pretty sure this is book 3 in the series if I remember correctly, or maybe it's book 2. I can't remember. I literally binge these series back to back to back, and I cannot remember off the top of my head, but anyway. So this follows our heroine who literally gets kidnapped within the first chapter, but it wasn't on purpose. So our hero was trying to I can't remember what he was trying to do, but it just happens that she was literally in the back of the car. She refused to get out of the car because her parents were going to this charity ball or something that she didn't want to attend. And so she stays in the back of the car while our hero gets in the car and drives off with her. And so it becomes a captive kind of situation. She is also a very well-known ballerina, and y'all, this is probably one of my favorite in the series. I absolutely adore this book. I know not everybody actually loves this book, which, I mean, that's fine, because I adore this book. Out of the 6, this is one of my favorite in the series. So I do personally enjoy this one the most. So this one falls under that category. Next up, I got yet another pretty popular book, but I can't help but recommend it. This is The Brit by Jodi Ellen Malpez. This is actually the special edition I got from Hello Lovely Box, so that's why it looks different than the typical edition. I don't own the original edition as of this time of filming, so we're just gonna have to work with the Hello Lovely edition. So I really don't remember a lot about this book, so I'm gonna rely on what the back of the book says, but obviously it's a captive situation. So we have Danny Black, who runs this empire or something, and is immediately attracted to our heroine, which is Rose Cassidy, and she is basically avoiding anything that will trigger fear and pain. It's really the only way she knows how to survive in the world. So it's kind of like a game between them. He is not a very likable character, as obvious, duh. This is also a mafia story, so there is that element to it. I really enjoyed this book. I feel like for Jodi Ellen Malpez personally, I feel like her books are hit and miss with me. I've read a couple of her other books and they weren't as enjoyable, but I really enjoyed this book, and I'm glad I finally read it, because it's absolutely an amazing book. So highly recommend this book as well. Next up, we have, I guess, another popular. It's gonna be really hard to make these recommendations because I feel like people talk about them to some capacity, so I don't know if you're gonna find a book that you haven't already read, but I hope you do. But next up, I have Enthralled by Gianna Darling. This is a duet, so this is book 1. Okay, story time really fast. So I have not read book 2 yet, and I read this when it came out, if not an arc of the book, and I have yet to finish. I will warn you, this does leave on a cliffhanger, and again, I don't know how I haven't read book 2 yet. At this point, I'm gonna have to reread Enthralled to jump into Enslaved, because so much time has passed, and obviously I've read hundreds of books since. So I've kind of put my I've kind of got quite the situation with this book. But I adore Gianna Darling. Like, she literally could do no wrong and I would read it. I love her writing. She is an amazing, talented author. You cannot go wrong with her books. So this one, again, like I said, it's been so long since I've read this one, but basically, literally on her 18th birthday, she is sold to our hero, who is Alexander, and she basically has to become a sex slave for the next 5 years to fulfill this need or whatever. And she doesn't want anything to do with it, and she kind of reaches like her lowest point, and it just is kind of sad to watch. But y'all, this book is so good. It involves, so this is another mafia book, so this one involves the Italian mafia. If you are interested in that, I always like to think that Italian mafia men are a lot more, they're not as brutal as the Russian mafia. I feel like those are the most brutal in my opinion. And they have more that like family oriented, not necessarily like vibes, but like personality to them. So they're not as like rough, I guess is the word I'm looking for. But yeah, so it was really good. Y'all, I really need to read book 2 at this point. I don't know why I haven't read it yet, but story of my life. Next book I have is 9 Minutes by Beth Flynn. This is a book I talked about in my, what was it? I think the first dark romances I've read. So it has been a minute since I've read this series. I think I read it in 2016 or something like that, a long time ago. So this is a biker romance set in the 70s in Florida, and our heroine gets taken captive by Grizz, and because she was about to be taken by some random nasty creepy dude on the side of the road by a grocery store, and Grizz takes her instead. And you're probably like, isn't that kind of the same situation? No, because I would rather Grizz take because he is, yes, he's like the president of the club, and he is very brutal, obviously, but he is literally a teddy bear, like would literally give his life to protect her. And I adore this book. It is definitely pretty dark, I will say that, so please know that going in. There are 3 books, and then there's some spin-offs in this series. You don't have to read the spin-offs like in order. You can kind of read them whenever. I don't necessarily recommend them as much as I do the original trilogy, because y'all, this series literally had me in a chokehold. Like, I love this trilogy to pieces. I cannot wait for the day that I can actually like sit down and reread these books and re-experience all those feelings again, because y'all, this series is so freaking good. I need more people to read it, like today. Next up I have, I guess, like another well-known book in the book world. It is going to be The Darkest Temptation by Daniel Laurie. This is the 3rd book in the, what's it called? Maid series, that's right. So this one follows a Russian mafia guy, and in my opinion this is the darkest in the trilogy because of the Russian aspect. Like I said, I feel like Russian men are a lot more brutal when you compare to other different types of mafia, like Italian mafia, Polish mafia, all of those. Just to me personally, if you've read more mafia, then you might agree with me, but Russian mafia, they don't play around. Like, it's pretty brutal. Basically, he takes her, and it becomes almost like Stockholm syndrome, where she really shouldn't be falling in love with her captor, and that's exactly what happens. I can't remember, but I feel like he holds her captive for like a really long time, like pretty an extensive period of time, and he is not nice to her in the beginning. Like, he is very brutal. So definitely kind of know that about this book is it's pretty dark. And he isn't necessarily the nicest to her. So yeah, I don't know what else to say about this book, because I read it about 2 years ago, I think, something like that. But I feel like most people know about this book, to be truthfully honest. Alright, so last recommendation is going to be a book I don't have a physical copy of, but it's going to be Mafia Mistress by Mia Finelli. And this one is a book I read, was it earlier this year? Like a few months ago. Time seriously goes way too fast. So basically, this is a book about our heroine who is engaged at this point, and her fiance's dad is not okay with that situation. He does not agree with this upcoming marriage, so he takes her instead. He kind of basically forces his son to break off the engagement and claim her as his. So it is quite the story. It definitely also has an age gap because she is, I think, in her early 20s and he is in his like mid 30s, I believe, if I remember correctly, or maybe his 40s. I can't remember. So there is an age gap aspect to it. But this one was so good because he is the definition of like a possessive hero. He he is like all over her, very alpha, wants to control her, and she's like, no, we're not doing that. And so at first it kind of becomes like a mistress situation, and then they fall into a relationship. There are 2 books, and then there is a spin-off that recently came out, and I'm pretty sure it follows the son, his story, I think. Overall, I really enjoyed this book. It's another book I would definitely recommend. And yeah, so those are my 6 recommendations. Hopefully this video wasn't too long. I'm trying to make them quicker, so hopefully I didn't like completely fail at giving synopsis, which I probably did. But like I said, I wanted to make this video as short as I could, so hopefully you guys didn't see that as much of a problem. Hopefully not. But I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I will see you guys in my next one. Bye, guys.